Now we've got U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks. Great to be on again, Brian.
So I'm going to show a quick clip here of the sparring back and forth between you and Kash Patel at the latest FBI director confirmation hearing.
Did you say that the FBI headquarters should be shut down and reopened as a museum of the deep state?
Mr. Chairman, are we allowed to go an extra time?
Let's see, you get a second round. Before I call on Senator Lee.
Could he just answer the question if he said that the FBI headquarters, where they investigate cybercrime and terrorism, should be shut down and opened as a deep state?
Hey, Mr. Chair.
As a museum. Did he say that the headquarters should be shut down?
Mr. Chair.
I deserve an answer to that question. He is asking to be head of the FBI, and he said that their headquarters should be shut down.
Mr. Chair, parliamentary inquiry.
You got anything you want to say, Mr. Patel, before I go on to Senator Lee?
Simply this. If the best attacks on me are going to be false accusations and grotesque mischaracterizations, the only thing this body is doing is defeating the credibility of the men and women at the FBI. I stood with them here in this country. In every theater of war we have, I was on the ground in service of this nation. And any accusations leveled against me that I would somehow put political bias before the Constitution are grotesquely unfair. And I will have you reminded that I have been endorsed by over 300,000 law enforcement officers to become the next director of the FBI. Let's ask them.
Mr. Chairman, I am quoting his own words from September of 2024. It is his own words. It is not some conspiracy. It is what Mr. Patel actually said himself. Facts matter.
Obviously, you can see that he is wholly unwilling to even engage and answer the most basic of questions. And yet, at the same time, there was effectively no pushback by any of your Republican colleagues, basically showing that he's going to have little in the way of an obstacle to being confirmed. Is there any sense among your Republican colleagues that the performance that he put forward at the confirmation hearing, or his inability to answer clearly or even tell the truth in some instances, is disqualifying? Or is the whole ballgame here just showing blind fealty to the God King and that's it?
I said on that inauguration day, when I had my moment, because I chaired that committee for a year, I said there are three branches of government that are equal, and that the power in that room, the huge power in that rotunda, came from the people outside of the rotunda. And I meant it. And what has really, really surprised me is how on so many of these nominees, our Republican colleagues are just going along with the administration instead of stepping back and saying, do we really want a guy like Kash Patel, who has basically, when you look at the questions that I asked, that Adam Schiff asked, others, he would dodge the question. He would not tell the truth. He would say he didn't remember. He would say he needed it in context. At one point, I actually asked him if he had actually said that the FBI headquarters should be shut down and turned into a museum. He wouldn't even answer that. He said it. I had record sites for every single thing I asked him. At another point, I asked him, didn't you say that the officers with over 100 of them injured that appeared before the January 6th committee were not telling the truth, that they were lying? Didn't you say that? He said, I need context. I came back at him with context. And so many of my colleagues had the same experience time and time again. So no, I believe in the FBI. I believe in FBI, which stands for, of course, fidelity, bravery, integrity, right? That is their motto. And there are 38,000 hardworking people that work at the FBI that take on the most complex cases of our time. They deserve a leader who is worthy of them, and it is not Kash Patel.
Senator, what does the FBI look like in the instance where Kash Patel is confirmed and he goes full bore into doing Trump's bidding? What is the natural conclusion of that? What does the FBI in practice look like in the event that Kash Patel does turn the FBI into a weapon, into a cudgel that Trump will use to wield against Democrats and his political opponents?
Well, if you remember the days of Hoover, the FBI director has a lot of power. And that power is often wielded in ways that you don't know, because it's behind closed doors. They have to decide whether to take on investigations, shut down investigations, and the like. you would hope, and there are a number of hardworking career people that will be there no matter what. However, as one of my colleagues, Alex Padilla, asked today, there are reports that they would bring in a number of people that would be political appointments around Kash Patel, which would mean you would break that tradition. Yes, the director is appointed for what should be 10 years, but of course, Christopher Wray just got fired by Donald Trump because while he himself resigned, Donald Trump had made very clear that he didn't want him to stay in that job.
Right.
And he, of course, had fired directors in the past. So the problem is if they start putting more political people that are not simply a well-established director who spans different administrations, you completely break down that apolitical nature of the FBI and the hard decisions that they have to make all the time on cases. One of my favorite moments actually in the hearing was when we only had 3-minute rounds at the end, which is somewhat ridiculous. And I had said that I had a question, and he said, well, I need more context. And I said, well, I won't have time to give you that context. I'll put it on the record. And he then said, you only have 2 minutes remaining. And I said, wow, but I also wanted to say, really, 2 minutes for a 10-year job.
Yeah.
2 minutes for a 10-year job. That is how important this job is, and it should be taken as a sacred trust of all men and women in law enforcement, not just at the FBI, but in the local levels as well. And obviously, my view is he is not up for the job, and that is why Bill Barr, the former Republican Attorney General, appointed by Donald Trump, respected by my colleagues on the Republican side, many, many comments they made when he left. He once said that Kash Patel would be promoted to FBI at the time deputy director over his dead body. That is Bill Barr's words, not mine.
Senator, you're one of the most bipartisan members of Congress. You are known for keeping your head down and doing the work and getting shit done, even in a body, in a broader body of Congress where there are a lot of folks who are looking to, get their TV hits. Like you are sitting there and doing the work. How do you view the prospect of working with your Republican colleagues in this Congress, where it seems like there's so little deference paid to anything other than just fealty to Trump, that all rules are out the window, of course all norms and institutions are out the window, and really everything is just being done no focus on any of the things they campaigned about, bringing prices down, all that stuff, lowering the cost of rent, of housing, and really it's just full bore into Trumpism, into pardoning January 6th insurrectionists, confirming an FBI director who has an enemies list, including on which you have Democratic colleagues in the House and the Senate, and also former executive branch officials like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Like, how do you view the prospect of compartmentalizing and working with these people in an environment like this?
It is on us right now. We took this oath, right, to protect and defend the Constitution. I just took it a month ago. When we got sworn in as senators, and we've got to be serious about that. Our job under the Constitution is advise and consent. So I look at it this way. Will we find common ground when we can? Yes. The American people, they were very clear. They want us to focus on cost in that election, right? They wanted change. They wanted change, but they didn't want chaos and they didn't want corruption. That is very clear, poll after poll. So if there's a way to work with Republicans, particularly in the Congress, on bringing down housing costs, building more housing, on childcare, on health care, and doing something about people's claims being denied and prescription drugs, I am all in, and Democrats are all in. But once they start hurting regular people by giving tax cuts for billionaires at their expense, or installing their buddies and making sweetheart deals, or letting Elon Musk just make decisions when he's not elected, and he's clearly plays a role in this, and there is no kind of constraint on him, that becomes a problem. Everyone has advisors from the outside come in and help them in government. That's a good thing. But this had better go through the constitutional process, because we trump the executive branch in many ways in the Constitution. Whether he likes it or not, Article 1 is the Congress. And that gives us the power of the purse. So when they suddenly, an unknown bureaucrat that they didn't even bring in there, but is just following orders, sends out a memo, 2 pages long, that says we're freezing funds, all loans and grants. Too bad. You know what that means? That means teenagers in cancer studies suddenly don't know what's happening. Moms can't bring their kids to childcare. Firefighters don't know if they're going to get that equipment grant. Domestic violence shelters don't know if they're going to be able to bring in new clients or people that need help.
Right.
That's what happened. And then we made, I will give you this example of standing our ground. The Democrats in the House and Senate, we just raised holy hell. We did. We went and we called people, and we went to the floor, and we went on our not just national TV and not just podcasts, of course, our favorite, but we also went local with it. And so did regular people. And literally the next day, they issued a memo saying, oops, we didn't mean that, we're rescinding it. But then their press secretary says, oh, guess what? We really are freezing funds. So it's total chaos. But my point, we are all in this, and our job is to find common ground when we can, and then stand our ground when we must.
And to the second part of that, the latter part of that, this idea of standing your ground, is there any assurance that you have for folks watching? Because thus far, there is a sense of kind of, I don't want to say like cynicism that there is a general sense of exhaustion, that we don't have really the fight that's necessary right now. And I know it's from the outside. Look, there's no women's march happening with hundreds of thousands of people taking to the streets, but at the same time, there also is some doubt as to whether the folks who are in the minority right now. And so I understand, practically speaking, there's not much that can be done, but just some assurance that you can give that you are the first and in large part the last line of defense against the worst excesses of this administration.
We are, and you saw that, and some battles that we have already won, despite the fact that, we literally have to get 4 Republicans on these nominations. Matt Gaetz had to withdraw his nomination. That happened.
Yeah.
There's a number of these hearings, especially the Kennedy hearing, where you saw a lot of pushback. We'll see what our Republican colleagues do because of their belief. Some of them actually believe in vaccines and believe in science. Tulsi Gabbard hearing, again, a lot of questions raised there. So you see this pushback. The abortion amendment they tried to get in a provision that would have criminalized doctors and hurt families that were at the very most heartbreaking tales, where they're losing their babies at the end of a pregnancy because of a physical issue with the child. These cases, we took that on and we won. We stood together and we won. Those are just the first of many. They rescinded that order. I think you're going to see this come time and time again. And it is not an easy time for anyone, but I think for your viewers and listeners, they need to know, we are big time in this. And we've got these incredible new members who have come into the Senate, and that's a big deal. We've got Adam Schiff in the Senate right now. You should have seen him with Kash Patel. Maybe some of you did. We've got Andy Kim out of New Jersey, Alyssa Slotkin out of Michigan, Lisa Blunt, Rochester. We've got Angela Alsobrook out of Maryland. It's really kind of an incredible new energy that's going through this place. And I know that it's going to take time for people to see that, but I want them to know that we are fighting every single day. And what we look at is those midterm elections where we're so close in the House of Representatives, right? Right now, it's 2 votes away.
Right.
And so that creates a lot of opportunities to try to stop real bad things. But it also makes it so that we could actually take the House. And, it's a harder toll, but with Senator Gillibrand leading the Senate Campaign Committee with the work that we can do in the Senate, we also have a chance of winning in the Senate. So that is what we are looking at in these next 2 years as we go forward. And we want people to be with us, but we have to pick our battles. And one of them is clearly when they're throwing people under the bus to give tax cuts for billionaires. One of them is clearly when they are engaging in corruption and firing inspector generals in the middle of the night that watch over taxpayer money.
Yeah.
So
perfect.
part of the reason that people at home are starting to get interested in this and learning about it and watching it is because we're not being silent, right? We're not being silent. We're finding every way we can get out there to make our case.
And finally, let's finish off with this kind of on the purposeful dysfunction that we're seeing. Obviously, there was that tragic accident in Washington, D.C., where the military helicopter collided with a regional jet. Donald Trump used that opportunity without even knowing all of the facts to immediately begin blaming the Democrats, Pete Buttigieg, the 2020 election, and DEI. So can I have your reaction to him using a tragedy like this plane crash to immediately start, attacking his political enemies?
It was so tragic because we lost actually a woman from Minnesota from a small town. And you think about those skaters that are never going to be in their world championships that they dreamed of. You think of the service members who lost their lives. These people perished. And of course, we have to get to the bottom of what happened. And we don't know all the facts yet. I serve on the Commerce Committee that has oversight over aviation. I can tell you right now, Ted Cruz does chair it, but there will be a thorough investigation, both as should happen with the agencies that have already stood in. There's someone who spanned the Democrat-Republican administration who's there, who investigates these things, and I hope to God she stays there because we have to get this investigated. Then we get the facts, then we figure out what changes have to be made. But for him to be using this literally a few hours after we have learned that there are no survivors and that people have died, I don't think you've ever seen anyone in leadership in America act like that.
Yeah. And of course, we'll see no pushback from the Republican Party more broadly. But I appreciate your thoughts on this and the assurances, especially that you guys are willing and prepared to fight here. So, Senator Klobuchar, thank you again for taking the time today.
Thank you. It was great to be on. Thanks.